Hello, my
My
name is
name is
Carolina
Carolina.
Janicelli, and I am thrilled to have the opportunity to be able to join you at the Hispanic IT Executive Council Summit. I am here today with my colleague Alice Rodriguez to tell you a little bit about JPMorgan Chase's Community Impact Organization and the path forward commitment that the Community Impact Organization is charged with overseeing. My role in the Community Impact Organization is to lead the implementation of the $30 billion Path Forward commitment to advance racial equity. I've been at JP Morgan Chase since the beginning of my career. I've had many different roles in the investment bank, in the private bank, and I will tell you that right now I feel I have one of the best jobs in the company because this is truly a purpose driven type of work. And I could not be more excited and happier to be doing this at this moment in time, not just for my career, but what we've been experiencing in the world over the past several months. I am now going to introduce my colleague, Alice Rodriguez, who leads the Community Impact Organization. And I will let her give a quick introduction, and then we're going to jump into a few questions.
Hey, thank you, Carolina. And like you, I have the best job ever as I think about how I am rounding out my career. So I have been with JP Morgan Chase for the last 34 years. I started my career in commercial loan ops. I've had the opportunity to work in the consumer bank and the business bank in Chase Wealth. And again, now this wonderful opportunity to lead all of our Path Forward initiatives.
That's wonderful, Alice. And, this truly is a purpose driven mission for you. Tell us a little bit about how it came to be, because you were practically retired and you actually decided to stick around a little longer to put together this team and lead the formation of this amazing initiative.
That's right, Carolina. I actually announced my retirement in early 2020. And, I've had, as I just mentioned, just an incredible career here, but I felt like it was time for me to pivot. I have a lot of goals as it relates to serving the community. And in fact, I am the chairwoman of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and was going to put a lot of my attention and focus there. But I did get a call from my boss, Tasanda Duckett, about 3 weeks before my retirement date, asking me if I would delay my retirement to lead these efforts. And of course, she gave me, enough time to think about it, but I really didn't have to take that much time because I felt that this was such an opportunity to not only give back, but to leave a legacy around, how we could really change the place. In other words, really look at all of our lines of business and figure out how do we change the pipes so that we have meaningful and sustainable change as it relates to advancing racial equity. And that was an opportunity that I wanted to be a part of.
Absolutely. And I guess the headline of this effort, which has been heavily covered by multiple media channels since it was first announced in October of 2020, is this historic JP Morgan $30 billion commitment to advance racial equity. So can you share fundamentally with the audience, what is this $30 billion commitment all about, and what are its key components?
Absolutely. So let's take a step back here. Remember that the whole mission and goal here is to advance racial equity, full stop. And specifically how you advance racial equity for Blacks and Hispanics. And people might ask the question, well, why is that? Why do we have this very specific focus? Well, when you look at the wealth divide in this country, there's a pretty big chasm when you look at a white household compared to a Latino household compared to a Black household. So for instance, when you look at the most recent FDIC median net worth numbers for a white household in America, it's 188,000. For a Latino household, it's 36,000, and for a Black household, it's 24,000. That's a pretty big divide here. And that's why you hear a lot going on in our country about how do we really deal with this wealth divide in our country. Well, you got to start by looking at what are the key drivers of wealth creation. One of them is home ownership. Another one is savings, long-term savings, particularly retirement savings. Another one is intergenerational wealth transfer. We chose as an organization to really look at home ownership and entrepreneurship, which is also one of the drivers of wealth creation, specifically in the Latinx and the Black community, to see where we can make a difference. And that's why when you hear the $30 billion commitment, the majority of the commitment really is on lending. So it's lending on the housing side, both from a supply side as well as on the demand side. So in other words, all of the developers that focus in on affordable rentals, that's one group. We've got a $14 billion commitment there in terms of lending to those developers. Then we have a $12 billion commitment to the demand side. So these are people that are looking to become homeowners. So $8 billion of that number is for purchases, $4 billion of that is for a refinance. And then we've got a $2 billion commitment on lending to small business owners, minority small business owners. Again, understanding that in order for people to create wealth in this country, they have to have access to this capital. And so a very significant part of the commitment, again, is to lending. And then we've got $2 billion that is committed from a corporate responsibility side. And then we have an investment that we're making from a financial health perspective, because we all know that you have to have a good foundation as you are going on that journey to home ownership. So everything from really understanding your credit score, improving your credit score, understanding savings, how you build wealth through savings so that you are ready for that moment of home ownership.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. I think you laid it out quite clearly. And thank you for grounding us on the why. I think that has been an important part of the work is to raise awareness internally and externally that there is, in fact, and this is what the data tells us, a racial chasm when it comes to wealth creation, income levels, home ownership, et cetera. One of the statistics that really stands out to me is that currently the difference, the gap between Black home ownership and white home ownership in the United States is at 30%, which is a wider gap than it was years ago when home lending discrimination was legal. So that just says that despite the fact that the laws have changed, and I'm referring to redlining laws in the past that were inherently racist and discriminatory, the home ownership gap has actually widened, and we see those statistics play out consistently where Latinos and Black consumers in this country really are at a disadvantage. I mean, the impact of COVID-19 obviously has put this in stark relief. It really was important for us to acknowledge that, to acknowledge inherent racist policies, systems, that really the time has come to call them out and to acknowledge the need to change how we operate. Another, I think, exciting, I guess, development or innovation that I'm seeing that I think is worth sharing with the group, just sort of to illustrate what this looks like, is that FICO scores are inherently racist in that they disproportionately disfavor or harm people of color in the fact that they're kind of difficult to change. That if you have a couple of years of financial troubles, it really hurts your score, and it's very difficult to change. And to see banks coming together, working with regulators to identify alternative sources to evaluate credit and to assess credit worthiness using alternative sources of data, and how that might actually open up credit opportunities for people that today don't have them is really exciting to see, and really gets at the heart of what's going on in the system that perpetuates disadvantages for people of color. So I think that, in addition to the large capital commitment to lend, as you well said, there's also this commitment to put a new lens in how we evaluate our business so that this change is sustainable and durable.
I think that's right, Carolina. And that's why I think it was very clever to create the Community Impact Organization, because the Community Impact Organization is being treated just like a business. We've aligned all of those goals under the umbrella of this organization. We have measurements, we have MIS, we have transparency, we have reporting. And then I love what you just said about like the new lens, or another lens that we should be putting on, so that we can understand whether or not we are creating some unintended consequences. And so I think of our group as a group that is really looking at the pipes of the place. So, we're organized around lines of business, but we also know that we serve communities. So how do you match up like the verticals, so to speak, or the strategy of the line of business with that of the pain points of a very specific community, and have a horizontal lens and a horizontal plan? And so I really feel like having our group and challenging the status quo, because I think that ultimately this is all about changing the way we do business. And I think if we keep peeling back that onion and peeling back that onion, we're going to find some great opportunities. And I think it would be great for you to share with the audience, like an example in your role. It's so critical as you really take those strategies and try to integrate them horizontally, like that integration and implementation can pay off in some big ways. So I think the audience would benefit maybe from a couple of examples thus far that your team has really uncovered that changed that lens a little bit.
Sure, and as I've sort of called out since we started working, we announced the Path Forward commitment as a big, large $30 billion target over 5 years on a national level. But as we all know, national is not a place. National is a concept. It's an abstraction that's a very helpful business tool to help us think about perhaps a business strategy. But the purpose of this work is to impact the communities locally. So a big part of the role of translating this commitment into actionable plans that have impact is to localize the Path Forward commitments across cities, specific cities that we've identified that collectively represent a large concentration of Black and Latino Americans in this country that are underserved. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if we take, say, the city of Houston, right, which is one of our priority cities, the way we go about this is we do a deep dive into the city of Houston to really understand where are the biggest problems perpetuating the wealth gap. Well, one of the things we've learned is that there is a tremendous affordable housing crisis in Houston. There is just very little and continuously diminishing housing stock, inventory, literally spaces, affordable places for people to live. Most people wouldn't know this unless they were in the field, but Hurricane Harvey, for example, that incident alone wiped out 25% of Houston's affordable housing stock. And if you layer on top of that just the sort of continuous hum of for-profit real estate development, where if in the absence of policy, developers might just not be incentivized to continue to build and preserve affordable housing, well, then you have a crisis, and it just gets more acute and more pronounced. So as Alice mentioned at the beginning, affordable housing on the supply side is one of our pillars. And we are, harnessing all the resources of our firm and all the different parts of our firm that focus on affordable housing to identify what projects we can lend to help preserve and develop new affordable housing stock, for example, in the city of Houston. Another example of what this looks like is an analysis of the unbanked or underbanked populations in the cities that we focus on. So sticking with Houston as an example, most people would be surprised to learn that 1/3 of Houston residents are unbanked or underbanked. That means that 1/3 of Houston's population either don't have a bank account or rely on our alternative sources or alternative providers of financial services to fulfill their banking needs. And by that, I'm referring to payday lenders or check cashers that are, quite expensive. And, an alternative that unfortunately does not help integrate the users of those providers into the banking system, which is critical because if you don't have an active checking account, then you're really not even taking the first step to build a credit history that could then lend to more traditional and affordable sources of credit. So those are a couple of examples of what this work looks like on the ground and how we're bringing to bear our resources to help alleviate this. So on the financial health side, which is the example I just shared about unbanked and underbanked, one of our initiatives is to bring to the community solutions for low-cost checking accounts that can help consumers start their path towards, having a healthy, functioning, a banking relationship that can help them begin to build that credit history that could then perhaps lead to a starter credit card, that could then lead to a car loan, that can eventually, get you at the place where, you could get a mortgage. So that's what this looks like on the ground. And, like I said, we've identified roughly 25 very particular cities where we have great concentration of, minorities in need of support. But of course, we're looking at the whole country, and we're confident that we'll be able to identify and have the ability to impact as many cities as we identify have a deep need along the way. So Alice, I believe that we are coming to our time. Are there any additional thoughts you'd like to share with the audience before we close?
Carolina, I am just so proud of our organization, JPMorgan Chase, for taking a real strong leadership role in trying to solve this equation for the country. And I think it's imperative. I think that JPMorgan Chase is the right organization to do that. And I think that we have like the best resources and access, right, to the best asset to make this happen. I really firmly believe that you can change the trajectory of someone's life in a generation. You just can. And I've seen it in my own life. Like I feel like I stand on the shoulders of giants. I really do. My grandmother did not read or write. My mother went up to the 6th grade and didn't attend high school. She later got her GED, by the way, when she was in her mid-50s, which I was always so proud of her for. But my point being that, I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. And, very similar to you, Catalina, I only worked one other job for 1 year out of college and then joined the firm. And so I really believe that the knowledge that I gained in working for a financial services organization is what helped me to think about wealth creation. Otherwise, I don't think it would have come naturally. It wasn't something that we were talking about at the dinner table in the evenings when I was having dinner with my family. So I say all of this just to say that that is another reason that I decided to stay, is that I feel like I owe it to give back what I know. And that, again, I feel like we're going to make some very important sustainable change. And that ultimately it is about changing the way we do business. And that if we do this right, to be honest, you don't need the community impact organization anymore because it's going to be embedded in all of our lines of business.
Absolutely. Well, Alice, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today. Thank you for deciding to stick around and build this incredible team and lead this incredible effort. I and many others are grateful, and I am very excited about the impact that I have no doubt this amazing effort will make. It won't be easy. Change is not easy, but I think we're set up for success. And we have the full force and support of JPMorgan Chase behind this effort. So there is reason for hope that if we work together and we stick to it, things can be more equitable and better for Black and Latinos in the United States. So with that, I will say thank you so much to the Hispanic IT Executive Council for inviting us to join your summit today. Enjoy